Leanne, thank you so much for joining us. I am very excited to be speaking with you today because you are quite well known and you are a very gifted healer and channel. Would I say healer? You're a very gifted intuitive guide. And yeah, I just love all things spiritual and metaphysical. So I am excited to hear your story. If you could just give us a brief background about where you come from and how things were and how you discovered all of these things that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much, Natasha, for having me. I'm so blessed to be able to talk to people about my work and what I do and just bring through the gift of guidance and channeling and connection to the spirit world. So I love that you talk about healing in amongst that, because as a medium, it is all about healing and helping people move through grief, loss, and sometimes trauma that comes along with that. So thank you for mentioning that, because not many people do. My story, I am what they call a natural medium, an empath who was born with my gifts. And so I came into the world being able to see, hear, and feel spirit all around me. That was kind of scary as a kid, because I didn't know what was happening or understand what was going on. And my family was not open spiritually and had no idea. So I would see spirit people in my room. I would hear them walking up and down the corridors, and I would actually feel them really up close and in my energy field. So as a child, that was quite frightening at times, and I didn't really understand how to manage it. So spirits taught me along the way, although I did block it out for quite some time. Spirits taught me along the way how to manage my energy so that I know what's my own stuff, my own thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations in my body. Because as a natural medium and empath, I actually feel spirit more so than anything. And that can sometimes mean feeling pains and things in my body, as those who passed have. So learning about me first, which is always what mediums and spiritual people need to do. The personal development work comes hand in hand. And then learning about what's other human people in my world, because I was picking up all of that. And then learning about the spirit world and when they step into my energy field and recognizing that so that I can bring through those messages. So it's been a journey.
Yeah, I'm sure it must have been frightening because I'm assuming some of them are not all friendly.
No, and I think that I say to some of the people that I teach and support in learning about their own gifts and how they work is sometimes spirit will test us and get us to put boundaries in place so that we're more solidly standing in our own energy. And so, no spirit people can harm us unless we think they can, is the first thing that I would say. And it's taken me a while to learn that. And it's more about they come from a place of love, and it's just energy who are needing healing in some way, shape, or form. And so the more we can stand in a space of our own authentic energy and love and compassion, the less they can impact us.
Well, that's for sure, because it is your belief system. Do you see them the same way a normal person? Do they look real or
when I do see, so my strongest sense is my feel and my knowing. They often come hand in hand. I do see spirit and I do hear them. I do smell and I do taste as well. When I do see, it can be like an image in my mind's eye. Or like a movie or a scene playing out in my vision. sometimes see sparkly lights or shadows. I don't see them as a full apparition or image. That's not how my vision works. But we can often have spirit guide us to look at things in our physical world using our vision as well. So I work with that quite a lot as well.
Yeah. Are they aware that you can see them?
Yep.
So they'll come to you. If you're, for example, if you're doing a channeling, they'll all come lining up to get through a message to somebody.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes they're more obvious than others. So I lived in South America in Colombia for quite some time, and my husband's Colombian. So I do speak a little bit of Spanish. So when I tune in and connect into a South American or Colombian person with spirit people, I will get the whole family stepping forward and them all chatting at once. So it depends on culture, it depends on personalities as well. Some of them will be a little bit more shy and line up and wait their turn, but some of them will just come in all at once.
Well, that's actually quite fun, because I suppose they would represent whatever to you on this side, on that side as well.
Yeah.
So you're a barefoot medium. What is that? How did that identity come to life?
Well, I don't particularly like shoes anyway. What happened was, as I was progressing with my mediumship, I started to, well, one of the first things I started to do was work with crystals in my hand as a way of saying to them, now's okay for you to connect. And when I take them out of my hand, it's disconnect. Just as a way of, I really need that balance in my life to have, not walk down the street and, you know, seeing them. I need to be able to turn off. So I was using crystals to start with, and then I started doing a lot more platform or stage work. And I needed a way of kind of saying to them, okay, now step forward and step in. So I used my shoes and did my introduction and took my shoes off, and that's how it kind of started.
That's actually a very good way of doing it, because you're also connecting as well. And it's kind of opening up your field even more. So, yeah, that's amazing.
Exactly.
And when you say when you are barefoot, it increases your connection with spirit. And I've spoken to a few people, and I've just been reading a lot about scalar energy and electrons. So I know that the earth provides the electrons, which then charges up your body. Do you find that works for you as well?
One of the things, I'm also a Virgo, so I'm very earthy, and I do love greenery in the earth. One of the things that I have always been drawn to is that South American Indigenous culture. And when I was there, I learned quite a lot from the Indigenous Kogi people, who happen to be barefoot all the time, and talk about the connection to the planet, and our feet are our way of being able to connect to the energy of the planet. And, you know, it's spirit, we connect upwards, earth, we connect downwards. So we have to have that balance between the physical world and the spiritual, because we're delivering the messages to people in the physical. And also the Indigenous people believe that we can actually feel when change and transformation and healing is coming through the bottom of our feet.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Did it? I know that in the Lone Ranger, Tonto used to listen to the ground.
Yeah. And the earth talks to us just like spirit does. We often feel changes, you know, particularly empaths, and some empaths, well, spirits taught me this, is some of us are here to anchor in new energy into the earth. And so we can be that channel for new energy, new light codes, new wisdom, new knowledge, new ways of being to come in. And we need to anchor that or earth that in. so that we can then ripple that out and share that with others on the planet and create that beautiful change and transformation and shift. So, some of us are just meant to do that.
So what about people that live, for example, in an apartment building and it's concrete and they're not able to really get to the ground? What would they do?
You can still, be barefoot or visualize or know that you are always connected to the earth. It's just a matter of setting an intention. I know that one of the things that, if you're not great with visualizing, you can do is kind of use your hands and imagine your hands being roots into the earth and just kind of pushing those down, a little bit like the plants that I've got here. So at any point, no matter where we are, we can earth ourselves and ground ourselves in or anchor ourselves into our human experience. And I think that's really important for people who are working with energy, whether it's in a healing capacity, connecting with spirit mediumistically, or channeling and bringing through that kind of guidance. Really important that we're actually present in the physical at the same time.
I think that is the biggest problem, because people are either on the phones or digital and their mind is either on the future and worrying about what's going to happen, or they're living in the past. You mentioned that you've had many adventures in this and past lifetimes. How have those experiences shaped where you are today, like your current gifts and your mission?
Oh, goodness me. Where do I start? I guess I left the corporate world. I worked in universities and teaching for quite some time in senior management, and just was incredibly stressed. I knew at some point I would leave. I got 2 a.m. tap on the back from spirit going, now get up and write your resignation. So I did. No idea where I was going, what I would do or anything like that. And that's how I stepped into going to meditation, just to, de-stress. And that's how I kind of consciously came back to who I am and my spiritual path. So that was one key transformative experience for me. I guess the next big one was selling a property and all my belongings and jumping on a plane for 3 years. It ended up being 3 years, and meeting my husband in South America. So again, following my intuition, following my nudges. And, my work around intuitive criminal investigations now is really stepping up with some study and research that I'm doing in that area. So, my husband's had some experiences with losing family members to homicide. So I'm aware of that, the trauma and the grief that comes with that. So part of my journey is to step into helping family members who are survivors of homicide.
Yeah, that can be quite heavy, I would assume, for those people that are left behind.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You mentioned a tap on the shoulder at 2 a.m. I know they say like 3 a.m. is the witching hour. Is that true?
I've heard that. I do know that I often get woken up at 3 or 4 around that time of a morning when I have new wisdom, new knowledge, new light codes, new energy coming through that I'm being asked to integrate and bring through. So often, if it's the witching hour, it's certainly something that we're awake for a reason.
I on a personal note, I'm fascinated because I used to wake up around 3 or 4, but in terror. And it came out of nowhere. My breathing is so fast that I cannot slow it down. Even if I want to, it just doesn't want to. And there's this feeling of dread that I used to have. I haven't had it for a while. But I just thought, what is with that?
And it can be those in the spirit world stepping forward. And sometimes it can be that they bring up that sense of anxiety and panic or heaviness within us. And like I said, they can be heavy because, like us humans, they were living at some point and they had a whole world of experiences, which may well have been, there's some beautiful, happy, joyful people in the world, and there's some people in the world that are not so much. So why would they not come forward showing their personalities in that way as well? Some people are respectful in life and some people are not. So we get a similar thing there.
Well, I just think it would be nice to have the nice people come through.
And so I often say to people, if you're having that kind of experience with those in the spirit world, it's often an indication that there's somewhere that you need to strengthen some boundaries. And boundary work can be really challenging sometimes because it requires us to say no and to get really clear on what we're comfortable and uncomfortable with, and even with the spirit world. And I'm really firm and really clear with my boundaries.
Yeah, no, you're right, because some people won't even take no for an answer. No means nothing to them. They don't even hear it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about manifesting. So some people struggle with manifesting. What is the mistake that they make? And let's go with that. What are they doing wrong?
Oh, that's a very loaded question. So I would say that at some place there's resistance or fear or doubt or limiting beliefs that are possibly playing out if there's struggle. So the first thing that I would look at is often the thoughts, because our thoughts create our reality. Our thoughts then create our emotions, which create a vibration that we send out to the universe saying, hey, match this, bring me this. And so if we're doubtful, we're going to see things in our physical world that show us either both, or it's confusing or doubtful or whatever it might be. So when we're struggling, we're going between trusting and doubting often. So there's probably a thought pattern or a limiting belief or a story that we're telling ourselves and that we're putting out in front of ourselves and we're making true.
Yeah.
So that's the very first thing I look at. And, a lot of my clients I work with, I have fun with manifesting because it's meant to be fun. And I use rubber ducks, the yellow rubber ducks.
Yeah.
And I talk about the yellow ducks being the happy ducks. And when you're aligned, when you're happy, when you're joyful, positive, and you're empowering thoughts that move you forward. Or we can have heavy ducks, which are those stories that weigh us down, keep us stuck, and keep us in our limited beliefs. So go hunting for some heavy ducks if you're in struggle.
I love that. And I agree. I think it's the doubt that actually stops. It's like going on a train and then getting off the train, going, no, I don't really want to go there. Now, why am I not getting there? And then you just keep stop, start the whole time. And you don't need to see your destination. You just need to trust that you're on the right train.
Exactly. And I think that's where most people who are in that struggle energy, it's about finding consistency. And all that might mean is working on the energy of consistency and being more consistent with your thoughts and your emotions and your actions. And if you can do that, you'll then break those beliefs.
Yeah.
So then you're in that energy already, and your manifestation can come to you really quickly and easily.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Can you think of anybody specifically that was able to manifest something great, that was looking for something?
Oh, gosh, I probably have so many. Oh, goodness. Who would I think of? I have a client who who has been working on some money beliefs. I'll talk about money, yeah, because often people think that that's the most difficult and most challenging to bring through. It's actually the easiest. Money is just an energy, yet we in our human world put so much heaviness or value or on it and attachment to it that we find we struggle with it. So I was working with a client on her beliefs around money coming, you have to work hard for money, or you have to put all this work in or this energy out there for it to come back. And so what we did was we walked, we did some tapping, we did some affirmation shifting, we did some work on the emotion of value and feeling worthy and knowing and believing that it was possible to bring in money really quickly and easily. And so one of the things that I often work with is start at, I believe it's possible to manifest $100 today. I believe it's possible to manifest $100 really quickly and easily. Start with that. Then it might be work with that until you feel your energy shift to I know it's possible. And so then you can start going, I know it's possible to bring in $100 today. I know it's possible to bring in $100 today. I know it's possible to bring in $100 today. And just keep saying it over and over and over again until you feel your energy click into believing that and knowing that in every ounce of your being. She's been working on that and she's manifested herself about $10,000 in a big chunk from out of nowhere. I've got another few clients that have manifested new jobs with increased income and new relationships and business opportunities, all sorts of things.
That is awesome. I think that is the thing. It's saying a statement that is in alignment with what you do believe rather than trying to say something that doesn't, because then it probably pushes it away further.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. People often work with that affirmation, which is fine. That's the first part of it. Our vibration, which is actually our emotions, need to match what it is that we're asking for. So if we're asking for money, for example, to come in really quickly and easily, and underneath it we're going, oh, I don't believe this to be true, I'm doubting this, then that doubt sends a very different message to the universe.
Yeah.
And so we've got to keep working on our emotions as well and clear out any trauma from the past where there might have been some experiences around disappointment or hurt or betrayal or abandonment, because money can abandon us as well, or we can have beliefs that it does.
Yeah.
And so we've got to work on all of that.
I find it interesting that you said that money is the easiest to manifest.
Yeah.
Why would that be? Like you said, it's energy. I have a hard time wrapping my head around that.
And most people do, which is why I often, when I get asked to talk about manifesting, talk about money. Because people put, in our human world, we put value on it. So, how much is 1 hour of your time, energy, and resources worth, right? Or we get taught from our parents, school, government, society as a whole that money's hard to come by, or you need to have a job, or you need to do this, or take action and be doing stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas in that beautiful divine feminine energy, she's this beautiful queen that sits on her throne and just asks and intends for things to come and opens up to receive them.
Yeah. Well, if you look around, the people with money, they just expect that the money will come, and it always does. Even if they lose it, they get it back so quickly. And the people who don't, they never seem to get there. And it comes from their belief system. It comes from their background.
Yeah. Yeah. And where I start with people, particularly with money, is have a look at your parents' money story. What did they teach you about money? My mum gets anxious about money. My dad doesn't worry about it. He's like, oh, it always comes in. Yep. Whereas mum worries about it. So, I had a bit of a mixture of both of those stories as a child. So I've had to work through that.
Yeah, that's what I would think. Maybe then it's not that the money's hard. It's shifting your belief system that's so hard.
Exactly. And so, at any given point, we can tune in to the energy of money and plug in or whatever you want to call it. And we can call forward that as an energy because we always have access to it. And it's unlimited.
In Avatar, they plugged into the horses and into the tree and just download.
Exactly. And I love that analogy. That's a perfect visual of it. We have access to it as an energy.
Yeah. So how would a person go about changing their belief system and identifying what those actually are?
Yeah. So beliefs are just stories or thoughts that we tell ourselves over and over and over and over and over and over again. And we often have them sitting in our unconscious, that we need to bring them to our conscious awareness in order to shift, clear, or transform them. And so what we don't look at, whether even if it's emotions around money, it's sitting in our unconscious that we need to bring to the surface and look at. So the first thing I would do is set an intention to sit down with a pen and paper if that's what you want to do, and just write down all of the thoughts and all of the stories and all of the things that you believe about money or whatever it might be. And then don't judge yourself on it, accept it and love it for what it is. Because we cannot let go of something that we can't accept. It's got you to the point that you are today for a reason.
Yeah.
And so it's really important to then surrender and let go of those beliefs and open to then bringing in a new story and a new belief system. So then I would sit down once I've done some healing work, however that might be, whether it's through meditation or affirmations or energy clearings, whatever you're drawn to. Then I would write down the new story I want to create and keep that close by and make sure you focus on that and catch yourself each time you do the wobble. And I call it the wobble between the old and the new, because you're going to be learning to break a pattern that you've held for a long time. So you've got to be gentle and kind with yourself as you're breaking the old stories and the old beliefs and the old patterns around it, and catch it. Forgive yourself, go back to the new story.
Yeah. No, I love that advice because it is, when it's so familiar, it's so easy to shrink back. And if you're not seeing immediate results, people might say, it's not working. You see, there's confirmation again. I did all this stuff. And then it's back to the same old way instead of just persevering, because you never know when that breakthrough is going to happen.
And the other thing that with my manifesting work, I work with some spiritual practices that I got taught in Colombia in South America that the Indigenous people work with. And they talk about the mirror world, which is universe, source, divine, whatever you want to call it, similar thing. And what they do is energetically, they go to the mirror world and they do all their healing work, their clearing work, their shifting in that energetic world. And then what happens is that has a ripple effect back into our physical. And so what we can actually do is set an intention, and I'd be very cautious with when you do it, or learn how to do it properly, set an intention to work with the mirror world and have the mirror world reflect back to you all of your limiting beliefs around money.
That's awesome. I love that.
Right. And then if you do that consciously, and you can just do that in a day if you need to, or a morning, or give it a time limit, and then write down everything that you're seeing. You'll have people tell you things that you're like, oh, okay, that's an interesting one. Or you'll see things happening in your world and go, oh, okay. So they'll use people and things around you to show you what's going on within you.
That is awesome. I love that.
You can do that in reverse as well. Show me what beliefs I'm to embrace.
Yeah. Well, it's just asking. And then being open to what comes, because it's always available. I know. Exactly. I watched one of those illusionists. I can't remember which one he was, one of the famous guys. And he asked this lady to write her name down on a piece of paper. Mm-hmm. And then he burnt the paper and he put it out on his stomach. And he said to her, your name is Dawn. And she said, how did you know that? And as he said it, he said, the signs are all around, and a truck came past with the big words Dawn written on it. And I thought, well, it's that obvious. It's that obvious. Yeah. He said, I just have to look at the signs.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing, right? It's just being conscious and present and grounded into our physical world so that we can receive those and hear those or see them. And then use that to kind of move forward and nudge us in the right direction of what we're asking for.
Yeah, yeah. And it is about asking. If you don't ask, then how do they know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
What I've found is, particularly for a lot of women, they find it really challenging to ask for what they need. And so one of the things, particularly around emotions, a really simple thing that I get people to do is check in with themselves every morning and ask yourself, how do I feel today? I feel happy, and that's okay. I feel sad, and that's okay. I feel frustrated, and that's okay. I feel anxious, and that's okay. I feel clear, and that's okay. I feel whatever it might be, abundant or free. And that's okay. What that does is take judgment away from it and steps us into acceptance. And then we can ask, and what I need is, because it's when we're in those lower vibrational emotions that we often forget to ask for what we need, because we sometimes don't know. So take the time to get to know what you need. If it's, I feel sad today and I need a hug, great. If I feel doubtful, what I need is reassurance or validation. Ask for it.
I love that. I think that is where people get stuck. They'll feel the feeling and then they'll stay stuck there, rather than what is the next step to get out of the feeling. Because I would assume it would just go faster and faster. You know, as soon as you think it, you're like, oh, well, it is available.
Yeah, absolutely. You can in an instant. Time doesn't exist. It's only our perception of it.
Yeah. So about the mirror world, I've heard stories that there are people like in the mirror. Like if you there's some photographs where a person turns and the person in the mirror is still standing and that person's turned. Is that true?
Well, I suppose it could be. I don't know, to be honest. It could be. I've not experienced that. Yeah.
Sometimes
so from an energetic perspective, I would say yes.
Yeah, there must be something in the mirror. I'm quite fascinated with that. You also work with twin flames and helping people find love. What is the difference between a soulmate and a twin flame?
Well, this one there's lots of information out there that, I'd like to debunk a little bit of. So not everyone is on a twin flame journey, and I'll put it that way. We all have soulmates, and they can be friends, family, romantic partners. They can be bosses or people we work with as well. So soulmates can be any of those things, and they're just here to help us learn and grow. Some of them are here to help us create family, particularly romantic soulmates. And sometimes people will stay with that romantic soulmate for their lifetime, and other times they'll create family and then move on to someone else, because that purpose is served and there's new growth to be done. In terms of a twin flames are, I guess, soulmates with a higher purpose, if I can say it that way. They are here to work with spirit and to create change on a global level. So they're connected spiritually and soul-wise, have often been together in previous lifetimes as well, and will be drawn to each other if you're aligned, if you're doing your own inner work. And, you know, that's where that manifesting work comes in as well with twin flame stuff. And so it's really about your connection to you, then your connection to spirit, source, divine, and then your connection to the twin flame, your partner. So it's never about that person, and there's a lot of people that are focused on that other person. It's actually not about that at all. And you won't manifest your twin flame into your physical reality until you're focused on you and your divine path.
I agree with you that way. I think it's fun, and that's what I've experienced in my life and with people that I know as well. You know, and that person can just happen, or it could be a development of something that you suddenly realize, hey, this person's been here all the time. What is going on?
Yeah, well, my beautiful husband, divinely led through all these synchronicities that both of us were not meant to be where we were. And, you know, I jumped on a plane with 2 suitcases and he happened to be working at the hostel that I walked into and wasn't meant to be working there. So the universe puts you together at exactly the right time for exactly the right purpose. And, you know, like I said, my purpose with spirit is to work with survivors of homicide and helping those who've passed over in that way as well. And my husband's had some lived experience with that. So we've both got that similar purpose spiritually.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. You work with homicide. Do you work with the investigators, with the police, or with the families? How does that work? And do they see the value in your work? Because it's still a bit of a, you know, it's not a precise science.
No, I'm doing a PhD at the moment and doing research into how mediums can work with police on homicides. So we're doing some research with both mediums, police. So I've interviewed quite a few homicide detectives and police officers. And we're also looking at interviewing family members as well. So there's some really interesting findings around how police use their intuition in the homicide investigation process. And mediums obviously use similar processes. In fact, one of the police that we interviewed sees spirit, hears spirit, and feels spirit around him.
That must be good and also maybe a little bit taxing.
Yeah, and look, you know, like I said, it's you know, to most people it would seem very heavy work. It's also my purpose and my path. Yeah. So I've learned how to deal with those heavy energies early on in my journey. So now and I did resist that path for quite some time because it is heavy. Yeah. So there is some value that mediums can offer. They also need to know how police investigate homicides, and that's my background. I've done psychology and criminology at uni as well, so I bring that aspect to my mediumship as well. So if people are interested in learning about both, then reach out.
Yeah. So what would a medium do then? Would it kind of just go on the clues, what happened, who was here, where would a person have been taken to? Are they still alive? Are they whatever?
So that would be the very first thing is, are they still alive? And that can sometimes be one of the harder things to identify, because some people are missing, and some cases might be homicide cases. So we've got to determine that to start with. And it's about identifying, firstly, the victim and describing some of those details about who they are. And it might be getting some of that information about the case that confirms for police that you are working with the right deceased victim, or on the right case, firstly, before you actually then go into more detail.
Are there times where the victim or the person it's not meant to be solved, that you'll be blocked on purpose?
Yeah, I always look, the one of the very early cases that I worked on with a couple of other people, we had a case where there were 3 victims involved very clearly, and very clearly knew who the perpetrator of that was, and that person has been arrested and charged. The 3rd victim has yet to be found. And my awareness is that she won't be found until her parents pass, because she doesn't want her parents to know what happened to her while they're still living, because they have to live with that detail.
Wow.
So they'll find out when they go and connect with her in the spirit world, and she'll share that information. Then her body will be found in the physical world.
It makes sense. It makes sense, because they don't want to harm anybody either. I mean, they are okay now, but you've got to live with it. The people left behind are going to live with it.
There's also, there's also often, and even in and I say normal passings, and I'm saying that in reference to homicide cases because they're different. Often when someone passes, there can be a bigger purpose to their passing. And I'm thinking of a particular case that I won't mention names, but this particular young person was murdered, and it took, I think, about 18 years for them to be found. And in that 18 years, this young person's parents created a legacy, a community, and a movement to prevent that type of thing happening in the future for other victims. So sometimes things take time so that other aspects of a purpose will unfold.
Could it be sometimes that the person chose that exit, like they said, this is what's going to happen in order for something else that's greater to happen, as a way to kickstart a movement like that?
The way I'll put it is that Spirit has taught me that every soul leaves this earth the way they're meant to go, for their own soul's journey and learning, and for the learning and the journey of those left behind, whatever that may be. So sometimes there's horrific ways that people leave this earth. Sometimes it's through suicide. Sometimes it's through illness and natural causes. It will all be through for a purpose, and the way they leave will be exactly as they're meant to.
Yeah, that brings you back to the acceptance. It is what it is. And when you can accept that that is just what it is, you can let it go and move on and move forward.
And I know that's really challenging for people who are in that initial grief, loss, and potential trauma, depending on how someone's left the earth. And I say that having my husband's brother, so my brother-in-law passed a little over a year and a half ago, through very tragic circumstances, through a homicide. And so he was quite young. So it can be really challenging to reflect on that and the reasons why something might happen. And that doesn't come easily sometimes.
Yeah. Would you be able to do a connect with spirit to bring a message to our viewers?
Sure. Look, they're already connected and bringing through whatever's needed. As I do that, I'm kind of being drawn to the name that of your podcast show, talking about spiritual warriors and the journey. What I'm hearing them say is that life is a journey, and that we need to see it that way, and that it can be filled with bumps and ditches and like a roller coaster sometimes. Sometimes it can be smooth and really fast, and other times it can be slow and bumpy. And they're just saying to have fun with it and play with it along the way, that embrace our inner warrior and really allow it to create that resilience and strength within us. Everything is working out for us, not against us. So even the challenges and the difficulties sometimes are there for us.
Love that. Thank you. Where can people get hold of you, Leanne?
They can connect with me through my website, thebarefootmedium.com.au, or Facebook and Instagram, The Barefoot Medium as well.
Awesome. I'll post those links below. If they wanted to connect with you, would you be able to work with them directly with regards to manifesting, speaking to their loved ones, helping them on their purpose, all that kind of stuff? Lovely.
Yeah,
I'll post all of that. Yeah. And then do you have a message for our viewers?
I do. I'm hearing be you, just be you, and enjoy every single aspect of being you, the good, the bad, the beautiful, the ugly, the messy, the clear, all of it. Just be you. And I think sometimes, they're saying sometimes in this human experience, we think we have to get things right all the time. It's part of the journey, and our learning is to embrace all of that messy stuff as well and to accept it.
Yeah, I love that. In fact, for me, the central message was all about acceptance. And it's not about saying that it's okay. It's about saying it is. And now what do I want to do with it?
Yeah.
Rather than be living in denial, because then you're not able to deal with anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Once we can look at something, I often say it's like a little child. If a child came to you and said, I feel sad, what would you say to them? Oh, God, get over it, would you? Some people might. It's about going, if someone came to me and they were really upset and crying, what would I do? Tell me what's going on, what's happening for you, what are you feeling, how can I help you, how can I support you? So do that with yourself. Be your own best friend. From the moment you land on this earth to the moment you leave, you are it.
Yeah, I think that's where most people's suffering comes from, is just not being able to take care of themselves, just because we've taught that it's been selfish, all these lifetimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think I've gained a lot of pointers. I'm sure that our viewers will benefit. So it was lovely chatting to you and
Thank you
hearing your
so
story.
much for having me.
I'm looking forward to your homicide investigation. I'm fascinated with that, and I know a lot of good can come from it because it's bringing the two together.
Yeah.
And there's so much more. And I think the better you get at it, the better people get at it.
Yeah.
And the more open.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Awesome.
Well,
thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.